Angela, as well as, well, we have, you heard Don this morning, and you heard Joel. One of the other co-founders stand up because they haven't seen you yet, Jerry Hudson. Jerry Hudson's the Executive VP of SEIU. And we have Dana Cunningham. Dana is from MIT CoLab, stand up. She just arrived from Boston. Do I have any other board members here? Ted, come from the Painters Union from Washington, D.C. Laborers, hey. Ted, thank you. So, I mean, these are the conversations we have. We are in the conversation, and this is the partnership that we're building with our community colleges to be in this conversation. And it is about infrastructure, it's about the future, and it's about how we develop a new model. You know, an economic development model where equity is at its core. And to hear Angela talk about seeing it doesn't get better than that, because we know it can be done. To know that there's precedent for it, that it happened in the 1960s, that's encouragement. That we just have to find the leadership and the political will, and we have to come together in a new way to counter the prevailing forces that really want only a few percentages of the people to do well. So anyway, that's our work, and again, we only see the community colleges as anchors to broadening and building out this vision for the future. So Angela, thank you for that inspiration and understanding the importance of equity and economic development. So with that, let me ask our third panel to come forward. It's an amazing group of specialists. We've got, again, a full representation of public and private and community here. Our infamous facilitator, Bernida Reagan, is with Merriwether and Williams. I'm going to have her self-introduce and to self-introduce her panel. But in addition, we're going to really start with a telecast from Dr. Ross Gittell, and I'm not certain how that timing looks. Okay, maybe. Okay, great. No, we're here. We're live from New Hampshire. I think we just have to build you out, Dr. Gittell. Give us a few more minutes, because we're going to do this telecast first. Huh?
I can remember what I got to say.
Okay, we can see and hear you. Dr. Gittell, we can see and hear you.
Yes, you can. So I better be careful what I say. Is this okay?
This is looking good. Okay. Oh, you're beautiful, man. How's life there in New Hampshire?
I don't know about that. It's been a long day already. It's a beautiful fall day, a lot of colors.
Well, one of our sort of East Coast partners in this collective think around the role of community colleges is the state of New Hampshire community college system, and the leader of this sort of visionary thinking who gets it at all levels is Dr. Ross Gittell, and we've asked him, he couldn't be here with us today physically, but we've asked him to come in and sort of share with us his vision for his campuses. He'll tell you how many campuses he has across the state, but also to highlight and lift up some of the innovative work he's done in the area with college resources, small business development. So, Dr. Gittell, it's on you. I think maybe we should not sit.
Okay, thank you very much. I wish I could be there. It's a beautiful fall day here in New Hampshire, but I do have some Berkeley roots. I lived out there for 6 years, a graduate of University of California at Berkeley, the business school, the house school out there. It was a long time ago, but I have a lot of fond memories there. I'm pretty new to the community college system of New Hampshire, having spent over 20 years at the University of New Hampshire. At the University of New Hampshire, I did quite a lot on entrepreneurship and working on sustainability issues and working with students on helping them understand entrepreneurship and launch businesses. I truly believe that community colleges are very good vehicles to promote sustainability practices and to launch and support green businesses. Just a little background on the community college system in New Hampshire. We are a system, and I'm Chancellor of the 7-college system, where total student enrollment is relatively small compared to larger states like California, larger urban areas, but we do have 27,000 students across the state in a diversity of settings and communities. I'm right now sitting with my colleague Mike Behrmann, who will speak later, at our Great Bay Community College, which is on the seacoast. New Hampshire has about 17 miles of seacoast. And we're in fairly close proximity to Boston. We're part of the Boston metropolitan area here at Great Bay. And we have a pretty robust entrepreneurship community here and also a high-tech community. I just drove down from where I spent the day. I spent the day up in the White Mountains, our White Mountains Community College, which is our most rural college, our smallest college. It was beautiful up there. I drove past Mount Washington and across our 7-college system with our 27,000 students. There's a lot of interest in sustainability issues. There's a lot of interest in entrepreneurship. Why do I believe that community colleges are really exciting vehicles to promote sustainability and to launch and support green businesses? At the heart of community colleges is serving communities and being fully integrated into the life of communities and advancing communities' interests. That's what community colleges are all about, focused on education, but also focused on broader community needs, including how to support a sustainable economy and sustainable practices in communities. Community colleges have physical presence, physical plants in communities across the country. So they're a great vehicle to have wide dissemination. Their physical facilities give you the opportunity to have live demonstration projects in renewable energy and energy efficiency that could benefit the colleges in terms of reducing operating costs, making it more manageable to operate with limited budgets and to keep tuition low. It could also be with the physical presence in communities across the country, having sustainable projects could act as role models for the broader community. People could visit the community college, which they do. Students are in and out, their parents, businesses are in and out. And in a couple of our colleges, we have quite prominent solar projects. And we're going to expand those types of projects we have because they're at the front door and very invisible. So our students see that, get curious, want to learn about renewable energy and other energy sustainability practices, and also broader members of the community. They could also be integrated, the projects, the renewable energy projects, the energy efficiency projects, be integrated in curriculum, and it could be for energy-specific or sustainability-specific programming and curriculum. But also, I believe a real good opportunity is to use the solar facilities or the wind facilities or the energy efficiency facilities at community colleges for learning laboratories for students in other programs. There's a lot of interest in advancing STEM education, science, technology, engineering, math, to get more students interested in STEM. If STEM's taught to students who aren't inclined to get excited by theories, but if STEM's taught in a practical, applied manner where students get their hands on projects and see the results of applied science, applied mathematics, applied engineering in projects that benefit their colleges and could benefit their communities, they're going to be interested in learning about STEM. And I think that's really important to expose more students to STEM projects. Then finally, and the subject of our panel here is community colleges could be a great vehicle to launch businesses. Students who have ideas about how to improve energy efficiency, small-scale projects in solar, renewable energy, they could have demonstration projects coming out of the labs that we have, including a really fine energy lab in our Lakes Region Community College in Laconia, New Hampshire. they could test their ideas in small projects on campus. And if those projects prove to be beneficial as reducing energy use, reducing dependence on fossil fuel-based energy sources, they can then start thinking about launching businesses with those projects, with those innovations. And then they could form teams with business students and other students at the community colleges. And with support, and this is where I'm going to go and end with, is they need support to launch businesses. And that's where we have experience, and Mike Behrmann from Revolution Energy will talk about the support we gave him as part of a green launching pad, which I was one of the founders of at the University of New Hampshire. And I'm going to briefly go through the green launch pad and talk about our plans to have the Green Launchpad operate at our 7 community colleges across New Hampshire, which we're very excited about. The Green Launchpad is a business accelerator program. It's a virtual program. It doesn't have physical space. It's really focused on using a competitive grant program to inspire new businesses, green businesses launching. We've had 3 rounds of launching. We had 1.5 million in funding from the Department of Energy to launch this Green Launchpad. And we had 3 rounds of competitions. And we were able to select sort of the best, the most promising ideas and business ventures, including Revolution Energy. And then help entrepreneurs who were winners of the Green Launchpad with some funding to get their businesses launched, to do marketing plans. We helped them identify marketing professionals to work with them. We helped them with lawyers if they had intellectual property. And we helped them connect them to a network of business professionals at University of New Hampshire and more broadly across the state. And Mike Behrmann will talk more specifically about the Green Launchpad and how it helped Revolution Energy. So I won't go into more details about that aspect of the program. But our experience with the program, very successful. We had 140 total number of proposals submitted. We launched 14 businesses in about 2.5 years. We had more than 30 student interns involved with those businesses. 4 of those companies out of the 14 that we launched were successful with private investment funds. 2 of those companies have secured further Department of Energy competitive grants. And these companies, the 14 companies, have hired workers. They're sustaining their businesses. They're continuing to serve their communities, as we'll hear from Mike Behrmann at Revolution Energy, in terms of supporting a broader network of green businesses and sustainability practitioners. And now what we want to do is widen the scope and network of the Green Launchpad to include the community colleges. So in the next round of the Green Launchpad, we're going to turn it into a competitive grant program, not for private outside people outside the university system, but for students. So it'll be student in teams and teams with faculty who will come up with proposals for funding and support to launch green businesses. And we're going to have this both at the University of New Hampshire and also the community college system. And the key aspect of this is the support the students will get. They'll get some seed funding, but then they'll get connected to entrepreneurs. And we're very excited because what we're going to do is we're going to connect the students who are winners of the Green Launchpad student competition with the 14 companies that won our private company competition. So they'll be, our students who want to launch businesses will be able to network with Mike Behrmann and other Green Launchpad successful green entrepreneurs. So I know I've already extended past my time limit, but I wanted to give you a sense why I think community colleges are an exciting vehicle for advancing sustainability practices, for launching green businesses, and what we're doing here at the community college system of New Hampshire. And I'm very excited about networking with a wider group of community colleges and thinking about what we could do to promote, to advance sustainability at community colleges and the communities we serve in community colleges, and then hone in and focus in on launching of businesses and to support the launch of businesses that come out of community colleges and network those businesses with a wider network of entrepreneurs across states. So I'm going to leave it there and turn over to listen to others. And thanks for the opportunity to participate. And I really do wish I could be there with you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Gittell, and I'm hoping that you can stay with us. Maybe it's been too late. I'm definitely a techno idiot, but I hope Dr. Gittell can join us again, because also Mike Behrmann is with him, who's with Revolution Energy, who's going to be one of our panelists. So we have a panelist of 5 amazing entrepreneurs and entrepreneur trainers and community activists, and hopefully we'll get Mike Behrmann back with us to talk about a range of issues related to growing businesses in the green economy. Hello? Dr. Gittell laid a great background for how community colleges can play an important role in helping us to achieve the equity that our keynote speaker spoke about not too long ago. Many times when we talk about business, folks have focused too much on that one bottom line. Many of you are familiar with the concept of sustainability as being triple bottom line, which looks at the environment, economic sustainability, or environmental sustainability, and equity. So some of us call it the 3 E's, the triple leg stool that helps us achieve sustainability. So it's not just having clean air or having business models that work and generate money. It's about equity. And I love the way, as always, that Angela Blackwell talked about the equity bottom line. So what this panel is going to do is help us understand how community colleges can support local businesses that are seeking to have a space in the green economy. Too often, you know, those moments of history come, and those of us who've been left out get further behind. So what we're wanting to do is use the development of the green economy to provide opportunities for those who have been inequitably left out to join in the green revolution. And in the work that we do, and I'll tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm moderating this panel, because I see this every day. At Merriwether and Williams, we're a small minority woman-owned business that's been around for 15 years. We're an insurance company, insurance brokerage company. Many people who know me would say, how could you in your 30+ years of equity work end up at an insurance company? But I have to say, I'm so proud to be working for this company that focuses on the #1 barrier that small and minority businesses have trying to get into construction. And this is not a panel just about construction, but when we talk about the green economy, we heard Carol Zabin talk about the fact that 2/3 of the work in the green economy is around construction. And so our work in the construction industry is to help small businesses overcome that primary barrier that they have, which is bonding. And for those of you who don't know, there's a difference between bonding and insurance. It's not the government bonds that we are involved with. We're a surety brokerage company. We help small and minority companies get their financials together, understand the surety industry, and qualify for bonding that is required on most public works construction. It is not insurance because you can't buy it no matter how much money you have. You have to qualify with character and capital. And so we work with small companies to help them get themselves ready to grow, to build their capacity. And so in the work that we do, and we happen to be an ICA portfolio company, I'm so happy that Nina's on our panel, we're able to work with small companies that get the resources they need, the bonding, the finance, et cetera, to get into the green economy. And in many of the circles that we're in, where we're looking at construction, there are very few people of color and even fewer women. If most of you are aware of the construction industry, it's a very white male-dominated industry. And we talked a lot earlier about ways that the industry itself for workers is opening up. This panel is going to focus on how we can bring opportunities to small and minority businesses. And so our panel members are going to introduce themselves as they speak, but I'll just briefly tell you who they are. We have Mike Behrmann, I believe, with Dr. Gittell. there who will be able to address his experiences in the Green Launching Pad, where he's going to be followed by Peter Crabtree, who works with Laney Community College, who can talk about here in Oakland, well, we're in Berkeley, but we're close to Oakland. So in Oakland, how Laney Community College is helping local workers and local businesses get into the green economy, getting the technology and the support that they need. He is going to be followed by Utuma Belfrey, who I've had the pleasure of working with for several years around labor, community, and owners and construction workers coming together through project labor agreements to really, again, create more equity in all the infrastructure development that is going on here in the Bay Area. Utuma will be followed by Nina Robinson, who works with Inner City Advisors, one of our advisors at Inner City Advisors. And if you don't know Inner City Advisors, you're going to learn a lot that's going to make you want to know more. This is a fabulous nonprofit that helps many small businesses grow, followed finally by Mona Masri. And Mona works with Citi. I always want to say Citibank, is that right? Citibank, that has some really phenomenal programs to support small business growth. So they're going to each talk a little bit about why they're in this space and why they're excited about this work and how they think community colleges can get involved. 4 to 5 minutes. And then I'm going to ask them some pointed questions, and then you're going to have an opportunity to interact with them through questions and answers, if that's okay. Okay, so we'll start with Mike Behrmann at Revolution Energy. And Mike, if you could talk, at least tell us who you are and your experiences with Green Launchpad and any of the other remarks that you can think about in 4 minutes, and then we'll get back to you with questions and answers. So you're on.
Absolutely. Okay, great. And everyone can hear me okay? Yes. Okay, great. Well, thank you for the opportunity to speak to everybody today. Revolution Energy is a company that was formed in 2008, and I've been working with Ross since around 2010 with the Green Launching Pad. Our company is driven to make renewable energy affordable. That was really where we started. That's where we continue to develop our projects. What we focus on is actually implementing and installing, developing, financing renewable energy systems that provide our clients with a more efficient and more economical way of putting that generation system on the ground, so that they can see the realization of sustainable energy on their campus, on their school, in their town, or on their commercial facility. So I'll keep it relatively short right now, but certainly as a small business, what we attempt to be as an innovator in working with both the University of New Hampshire, with Ross at the community college system here in New Hampshire, we really strive to find new ways to bring that affordability to the picture, and we do so on a continual basis with multiple technologies and all sorts of financing and incentive opportunities that are available. So with that, I'll turn it over to the rest of the panel for the moment, and then I'll try and accommodate specific questions on how we've grown, what challenges we've faced, and how I think other green businesses can be developed within this space, within the community college systems, to achieve that goal of having a robust national program that we can really bring some of the sustainability to the forefront.
Mike, thank you so much for being brief. We will get back to you because we do want to hear those topics that you said that you would mention. And if I don't remember to ask, please remember to say them. So thank you again for being brief. Peter, if you could tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing in this space at Laney College, and what you see the community college role being, very briefly, because then we're going to come back to you with some questions too.
Okay. At Laney, and it's really nice to be part of this panel and part of this conversation. if we think about entrepreneurship within and business ownership within this industry, the green technology industry, there are a number of broad categories of skills that are needed to be successful. Obviously, technical skills are a critical part of that. Business skills are another critical area. Industry experience is often a defining characteristic of a successful entrepreneur, that they've actually worked in the industry before they start their own company. Another key aspect, particularly in dealing with the construction arena with clean energy, are industry certifications. And finally, understanding successful business models within the clean energy economy or the green economy. It is a moving target. This field is driven to a considerable extent by public policy. The Obama administration, for example, brought more resources into the clean energy economy in the last 4 years, or what the balance of the last 4 years, than we had seen supporting the clean energy economy in the last 40 years. So there was a huge, somewhat subtle, because it is such a contentious thing, and you saw someone the other night saying to Mr. Obama, "You're not Mr. Cole." Well, that's good. So, but there are obviously very powerful forces at work, and in our country, we don't have a national energy policy that we can all agree on. And so that creates its own set of challenges. At Laney, we have focused on as many of these areas that I described a minute ago as possible. We have developed a considerable range of courses and programs to address residential energy efficiency. We have a very strong commercial energy efficiency program that's embedded in our environmental control technology program. We're teaching renewable energy embedded in our electrical department. We're teaching sustainable design in our architecture department. We teach weatherization and installation practices in our carpentry department. One of the things that makes Laney so viable in this is that we have, many of these programs are interdisciplinary, and we're able to offer interdisciplinary curriculum to our students. And of course, we've also embedded business skills. We're teaching a course right now in making the financial case for energy efficiency. So I think, is my time up for the moment, or?
It's for the moment.
Okay.
Because I do want.
Well, let me just say one last piece here. And speaking of equity, climate change poses perhaps the most profound challenge in human history. And from an equity standpoint, it's really the global South who is most vulnerable to the effects of climate change. And we in the global North will be able to shield ourselves to some extent, but the global South will really feel the impact of water shortages, food shortages, you name it. And ultimately that will trickle here too. So I just want to say that this is some of the most important work that we can possibly do.
Peter, and when we come back to you, I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit more about the business, what you're doing for businesses. But next, we're going to go to Utuma Belfrey, who I know as a longtime member of. Do you want me to use this mic? Oh, get it to her so she can be heard. Okay, so I've known Utuma as a member of IBEW, but who's been very involved in community around project labor agreements and around getting community involved and helping businesses to understand the value of working with labor and also to understand where they may get resources to overcome their challenges. But Utuma has also been doing work with community colleges in San Francisco, so ask you to give a brief introduction of what excites you about being in this space.
I think what excites me most about being in this space is the collaborative discussion, because we can't come to a solution until everyone who has a vested interest is able to come to the table. So I kind of want to tell you how I got here, and so I am an IBEW member, an electrician by trade. And if you guys don't know, that's a male-dominant trade, particularly white males in the industry. And when I became a journeyman, and I was raising 3 children as a single parent, I saw my ability to be successful limited. Because when you're an apprentice, you get your hours. But once you become a journeyman, then it's more at the employer's discretion, or who you're connected to, or whatever the case may be. Once I became a journeyman, it was when the market crashed, and I was kind of nervous. How was I going to take care of my kids? And I had an opportunity to choose between continually looking and struggling to find work, or investing in myself and positioning myself to be able to be successful going down the line. That being said, I started taking courses in sustainable building. I felt like I was going to carve a niche for myself and become a contractor. That was my goal, to become the first woman solar contractor, because I had taken solar courses through my apprenticeship and things like that. And so I wanted to be an electrical contractor that had a specialty in solar. But me going along the path of looking into green energy, I saw that you just needed more experience than just knowing about solar. And starting a company was very challenging for an African-American woman, with the issues that Bernida brought up about bonding and so many other things. So with the training that I have with community advocacy, sitting on advisory panels in San Francisco, like commissions and things like that, I became a community advocate from my perspective as, being a woman. So I'm really excited about being in this space because, again, this is a collaborative conversation. And business spends $485 billion a year on training and development. So business needs to be at the table when development is occurring, when it comes to training the workforce. Business needs to be at the table to say what it is that they need. Business needs to be at the table when it comes to overall development, so that we know the kind of pool of people that we can educate and pull from that pool of people. We have to begin to grow our own here, in our local communities, here in our country. And since we're falling behind in our education, the standards, we're getting people, and it's not an unwelcoming thing, but what is going to happen to these people that we are not training? What's going to happen to the people that are not receiving the education or the skill set to be competitive? And that's what I'm advocating for.
I think what's so great is when you talk about community colleges and we talk about policy and curriculum and development, to have folks from different perspectives, yours as a single mother and an electrician and someone exposed to business, to be able to be at the table and help shape this as a collaborative, I think is very powerful. And I think that's what Emerald Cities is about, and those of us who are involved with Emerald Cities see it as a table where we can all get together. So thank you for your input, and we'll be back to you in a minute. Yeah, she gets a clap. Okay, and next, Nina, if you could tell us about ICA and why you're excited about being in this space.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me here today. I'm very excited to be here and participate in this conversation. My name is Nina Robinson. I work at Inner City Advisors, and we are a nonprofit organization that selects, manages, and invests in small businesses, high-impact entrepreneurs with the mission of creating jobs in low and moderate income communities. And so the way that we do that is we offer practical entrepreneurial education. We also have a portfolio of companies that we invest in with pro bono advising and consulting. And then we recently launched an investment fund where we directly invest in different capacities, whether it's debt or equity, into companies, and again, with the mission of creating local jobs. And as portfolio manager, one of the areas that is definitely growing quite a bit are, emerging green companies. So, energy efficiency, solar installation companies, and then another industry that I think, gets neglected, obviously, is, local manufacturing. So we here in Oakland have seen a lot of artisan food being produced. There's a lot of products being made. There's a lot of, more clothing manufacturing that's starting to arise. And so we are working with those companies so that we can help them scale and create good jobs. And when we say good jobs, we're talking about jobs that pay livable wages, that offer health benefits, and offer a career ladder so that someone can come in at an entry-level position and then continue to grow with that company. And I'll stop there for now.
Thank you, Nina. Mike will come on. There we go. Thank you so much, Nina. And Mona Masri is a senior vice president with Citi Community Development and has been involved in some very groundbreaking programs to create community economic development in communities in which she works. So tell us who you are and why you're excited to be in this space, Mona.
Sure, and then I'll talk about the details of the program later, or do you want me to? Okay, great. So I'm the statewide manager of community development for Citibank. And our involvement in this space is really about being a good corporate citizen. So we want to make really tactical business decisions that provide both value for those that we work with and those that we impact, and particularly for low and moderate income communities. So our corporate citizenship is really focused on economic empowerment and environmental sustainability. So embedded in the community development work that I do is really the principles of corporate environmental sustainability and an approach to supporting our global and local programs that impact sustainability, while also working on developing products and services that we both as a corporation would utilize, but also that we would develop for our clients. And by using these specific products and services and really adopting certain standards, we're better able to advise our clients around this topic, both from an implementation perspective and from a strategies perspective. So for example, we have a goal to have about 15% of the properties that we own be LEED certified. We also want to, over the next 20 years, improve the energy efficiency of our portfolio companies by 20%. And I think, what's most exciting about our involvement in this is that we're really looking more closely at how we better integrate the work that we're doing around creating economic opportunities for low and moderate income individuals with this idea of, sustainability. So how can we better integrate the approaches, because we know it's a growing sector and we don't want low and moderate income communities to be left out. And the way that we're doing that is by creating economic opportunities is really to help create jobs. And how are we helping to create jobs is really by creating opportunities for small businesses to get contracts. And so I'll talk later about an innovative partnership that we have that really addresses a lot of what we've been speaking about earlier, which is this idea of collaboration. So we have a collaborative initiative down in Southern California that has public, private, nonprofit sectors working together to really kind of create opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses so that there'll be jobs, and there also is an environmental component.
Thank you, Mona. And Mike, are you still with us? I'll give you a second. I know you have a time delay there.
Yes, I am.
Okay, great. Mike, maybe you can tell us what was most helpful to you as a small business through the Green Launching Pad. Did you hear that question?
I would say that really the most important thing for us was really legitimization. As a small business, we really deal with trying to explain to our potential customers that we're capable of carrying out the job. We are technically savvy to do the job. We're up on different technologies, different methods of doing things. And you wear many hats as a small business, whether or not it's in the green sector or if it's in or any sector for that matter. So the thing of Green Launching Pad, we received a lot of different types of source and support. One thing was funding. We did get some funding from the Green Launching Pad, but that really, frankly, in my opinion, was not the most important piece. When you align yourself with a major university, with the Department of Energy, that goes a long way to legitimize yourself as a business. We could then go into different conversations with potential clients and say, we are an award recipient from the Green Launching Pad, supported by the state of New Hampshire and the Department of Energy. I think that's a big challenge for a lot of people in this space. You go into meetings with potential clients and they say, well, I heard about a company called Solyndra. Are you guys Solyndra? We say, no, we're not Solyndra. We do something very different. And that's the type of stuff that you have to battle, whether or not it's developing renewable energy or installing energy efficient appliances or just energy efficiency improvements to a facility in general. So the Green Launching Pad not only provided funding, but professional expertise around developing a business, really helping us hone in what our business plan was, providing support through staff, professors at the university and the business school, as well as interns that could help us with a lot of stuff that we simply didn't have time for. Marketing is certainly a key area, and something that I think every business has to deal with these days, with the social networking that we have in the flow of information, where people, the first thing they do is go to a website to see what you've done, who you are, and if you don't have a robust website these days as your marketing platform, that's a challenge, and that might prevent you from being the one to get the contract. So those are a couple of the things that Green Launching Pad provided to us, but I would absolutely say that legitimization by far has helped us more so than anything else that they've provided. And I would say that in the community college system, in a workforce development in the same manner, that's going to continue to be something that the community college system can help with. They can say, we have gone through these steps with these businesses and help them through an incubator process or a launching process that has effectively vetted them to say, yes, this is a good company, that these people have been trained not only in their own expertise, but in functioning a business, that when you move forward with them, they're going to be around and that they're going to be able to grow. And that's essentially what we've been able to do as a result of a lot of the support that we've received.
Thank you, Mike. I think that is such an important point for small businesses, is that there's such a stereotype that small businesses and minority businesses cannot do the work. In the work that we do, we were talking at lunch about our company helping small businesses that couldn't get bonds get their first bond. And so many of these large contractors or owners they may want to work with small businesses, but they feel like they can't take the chance because they're not legitimized. They don't have the bonding, or they don't have the resources or the relationships that they need. And I was talking at lunch how we help contractors bid on over $600 million worth of construction activity. And in the contracts where they were successful bidder, we've had one default in 15 years. Our default rate is less than 0.1%. In the industry in general, it's over 30%. And so these companies that the large businesses or owners don't want to take a risk on are the ones that actually can do great work with sufficient resources and support. And so I think the Green Launching Pad, I think the things that we're going to hear more about today, very important to ensure that resources keep flowing, because in order to end that gap, that equity gap, we need to invest in the small businesses in ways that they can overcome not only the real barriers that they face to capital and marketing, but the perceived barriers. And so that legitimization issue is really good, and I appreciate you bringing it up to me earlier this week, Mike. Peter, I would like to ask you, and Laney has a range of resources in the community. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about what Laney is doing, not only to provide the technical skills for the businesses, but the other kind of support that Laney provides for small businesses in the community college system here.
Well, I think another key element of legitimacy for businesses is certification. So in the solar arena, NABCEP is the major nationally recognized industry certification. So Laney has developed courses to support students and contractors getting that certification. In the terms of residential energy efficiency, BPI, Building Performance Institute, is the major, what has emerged just in the last couple of years is the national certification for building analyst, building envelope specialist, et cetera. So Laney, very early on, in fact, we were probably the first college in the West, in the Western states, to become a recognized partner of BPI and able to offer certification to our own students and also to contractors. Most of our students at Laney are minority individuals. They're from the Oakland community, trying to get a foothold into the economy, trying to get into the green economy. We also have quite a few small and minority contractors who want to get BPI certified, and we're right now offering a certification class, and they will also be able to take the written exam, and there's also a practical exam involved. It's a very rigorous certification coming out of New York, where it was developed. But once you have that certification, you will be able to have legitimacy in the community. You'll be able to access dollars and do the work.
Thanks, Peter. And Utuma, I know you're doing work in San Francisco in the community college system there. Maybe you can tell us about the work that you're doing there in terms of curriculum development. Or whatever.
Okay, so I kind of want to respond to Peter's, what they're doing at Laney College. And San Francisco is doing similar things, but what I know specifically is that although they have the NABCEP certifications and the BPI certifications, there needs to be some kind of investment for the businesses to sustain, because since this is a new industry, and a lot of people aren't investing in it. And the people who are taking on the industry and investing their own money into green technologies, it's a lot of private investment. We're beginning to get more and more public investment in it, but the masses as a whole has not bought into it actually working. You know, people as a whole, homeowners and small businesses, small shops and things like that, they haven't bought into it as a complete investment. There's still a sales pitch that has to go forward. And the barrier to businesses actually being able to be successful is that they're on the learning curve as well. They're seeking opportunities to actually be funded so that they can go forward. Not be funded, but it's hard to train people, train yourself, train people behind you, and then push a business at the same time. So there has to be some kind of collaborative effort with the community colleges or training organizations that can create a pipeline already for these businesses, and these businesses need to really know where to go to get resources. And I think that's part of the issue, is that the small businessmen don't actually know where to get resources. And for example, in San Francisco, if you want to do business with the city and county of San Francisco, you have to be certified. You have to be a small business owner, a minority small business owner, a woman business owner. The paperwork is very off-putting for most small businesses. And if you're like a 1 or 2 man shop, which a lot of home energy raters are, or Greenpoint raters are, then the work is even more cumbersome because you're spending most of your time doing paperwork and not actually doing the work or selling or promoting your business. And then heaven forbid you actually get a project, because then you have to juggle all three and you don't have the trained workforce behind you. So the collaboration between City College, the community colleges, the business community, and the public is an overall investment that everyone could benefit from. You know, community colleges can tailor programs for moderate or larger companies to train individuals in a way, whatever the company model is. They can train people for cheaper than a private instructor doing just one thing. You know, you can train the masses. So I agree with the certifications and things like that, but I promote more of a partnership between business and the community colleges and individuals. Hiring individuals that may not be as skilled, but giving them the incentive to learn and be able to grow within the company is what I would promote more.
And I think that's an important, everything you said is important, as well as you, Peter. One of the things that small businesses don't know about in terms of resources are things like tax credits, are things like local AC Hire or San Francisco Hire programs that allow people to do training on the job, and they're paid, half of their salary is paid for by the county. And it allows someone to get experience that they otherwise wouldn't get. The incentive is for the company to hire them and have at least 50% of the salary offset while they're training someone to the specifications that they need in their business. There's so many tax credits that small businesses don't know about. If they did, they'd be more successful and have more opportunity to do all the things that small businesses need to do, as Utuma laid out. And I know, Nina, being a portfolio company, I know all the amazing things that ICA does. Maybe you can share with the audience some of the things that you do that could be part of this collaborative, in fact, already is part of this collaborative, to grow businesses that can be successful in the green economy.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I think, really connecting, entrepreneurs that are launching their business, and, the way in which I work with companies is really, taking that business model and figuring out how we can scale it. And so a lot of times, it's looking across their business and, assessing their financials and their strategy and working very hands-on with them to give them practical and strategic advice to help them get there. And, I think what I see a lot is, there are these great programs that, provide incentives, but, if it's a 6-month program, when that incentive goes away, then, the business owner is in a position where they sort of become reliant, and then unfortunately those jobs go away. And so, I think, there needs to be a more long-term perspective around, those are the types of programs that I think make a lot of sense and can be really helpful to a company that is, wants to do the right thing, wants to hire from local, wants to hire from community colleges and from these programs that provide the training to the people that need it the most. But when you're a small business and you're so scrappy and, you are trying to, really survive, a lot of times it's, I think keeping that in mind as these policies and these programs are being developed, you have businesses that can go out of business once these funding sources dry up if they're not being competitive and, diversifying their revenue streams, which is, some of the things that we try to help with. But I agree. I think the tax incentive programs are, ones, and we're trying to get better at that too. I think in terms of learning what is available, and that's why.
And you do, and ICA does other things that you talked about, like you help people with business plans, so that they're not like a 6-month business plan that just says use AC Hire, but looks at the whole business, the 8 factors of success, and tries to help them have a long-range vision for growth. I know for our company, you've been invaluable. So, Mona, maybe now you could talk about the innovative programs that you have going in Southern California.
Sure.
So I'm going to focus on one program in particular that's really around providing increased procurement opportunities for minority and women-owned businesses, which is always a challenge. This program is called Bridges to Business. It's an 8-week comprehensive training and education program that includes USC, the University of Southern California, through its Minority Business Development Agency. It includes the Southern California Minority Supplier Diversity Council, which is a certifying agency, several minority chambers in Southern California. There's an Asian chamber, an African American chamber, Latino chamber, the LA Housing Department, the Service Corps of Retired Executives. I'm not sure if people know, but they're a program of the Small Business Administration, and they provide free counseling to people who want to start a business or have a business. And then a local community development financial institution, or CDFI, which is called Valley Economic Development, that actually provides access to capital for small business owners. So I think everybody knows that communities in California and around the country have really been devastated by these foreclosures. And the government had a program, it's called Neighborhood Stabilization Program, or NSP, that provided funding to municipalities to be able to purchase, rehabilitate and resell these, they're called REO properties, back to low and moderate income communities. So the city of Los Angeles had a substantial grant. And what they did was they set up a separate legal entity called Restore LA. And in this program, after business owners go through this 8-week comprehensive program and get trained and get certified, they have direct opportunities to be really, there are kind of at least 2 levels of vendors. There's tier 1, which is kind of the direct contract, and then there are tier 2, which is the subcontractor. So a lot of minority or smaller companies, if you will start out as tier 2, so they'll be subcontractors to the main contractors. So what the city of LA did was we worked with them to create this program where at the end of the 8-week training program and certification, they are actually connected with direct opportunities to work on these properties on the rehab side. So a lot of it is around construction, but the government put in place certain environmental upgrades on these properties. So if they take an REO property, they acquire it, they're doing things like using renewable materials, weatherizing the homes. So all of those environmental upgrades are done. And so the minority business owners are actually working on that piece of it. So that's where kind of the sustainability piece comes in. And it's a relatively low-cost program to the people going into it. It's a fairly new program, but we're seeing really, really great results, and the city of Los Angeles is really happy. And we think that there are opportunities to really replicate this in a more concentrated way in kind of the green space. This is, I would say it's housing, but there's a lot of environmental sustainability built in, but you can actually do it for lots of other industries. We're seeing, in terms of trends, I know we'll talk about it a little bit, but we're seeing a lot of affordable housing developers that we work with take advantage of lower rates right now and refinancing properties and actually doing a lot of retrofitting on housing developments. So there's a lot of opportunities, again, for subcontracting in that space as well. I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of units in California. And then we also see not just the direct, what they call intervention of actually doing the construction work, but all of these supportive services. So if you're not actually in the construction business, there's property management services, there's energy audits and monitoring that are opportunities as well.
So thank you, Mona. I think what's interesting one of the things that was interesting to me when I spoke to Mona earlier this week, we also have a program in Los Angeles, like the one we have here. We have it in 4 cities. And in that program, the contractors who had done the most work and who were able to get bonding and work on the most projects worked on the Restore LA project. So it's interesting how sometimes even when we don't know it and we're coming together to provide support services, and conversations like this I think are important for us to figure out how we can even wrap our arms tighter around those small emerging businesses that really do need a lot of support. One of the things that we talked about was construction, but there are other opportunities in the green energy space, and maybe you, Mike, or some of the other panelists can talk about beyond construction in the green energy space. What are things that small businesses might be thinking about? Any of you who want to answer? You look like you were going to answer, Mike, but maybe not.
Well, I will answer. I'll talk just briefly. Staying in the construction space, the PACE program, and I think you were mentioning the fact that there's a lack of what I call energy literacy. People don't really understand energy. You flip a switch and the light goes on. And they don't understand, for example, why it makes more sense to weatherize your home rather than install solar panels. Why that's a more cost-effective investment. We simply don't understand it. The PACE program, which some of you have heard of, would have created a huge volume of demand and financed demand at the local level for people to weatherize their homes. And it would have moved into a mortgage situation and been amortized over 10 years. The major banking community came out and really torpedoed the PACE program, and it just pulled that whole market out. It's now in litigation, and it could come back into existence at some point, and it would be a huge stimulus for weatherization of homes. And if we combine that with a Healthy Home Initiative, which tries to look at the whole habitability of our homes. I mean, in Oakland, we've got literally hundreds and hundreds of homes that could be not only weatherized, but made much more healthy and habitable, and create huge numbers of jobs and stimulate business as well, of course. Something else that I think we're seeing, and somebody said this is clean energy is a immature industry competing with mature industries. And something that is happening in California and Australia and a few other places is carbon trading. It is a big business opportunity, and small businesses can move into that space, in my view, if they understand it and can operate in that space. And that is something that's just coming online. So there are opportunities.
Okay, and did others of you want to address it?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Mike, sorry.
This is Mike. I don't know if anybody can, so one of the things that I think we've suffered with for a number of years now is actually the fact that efficiency is part of business. And I don't know where we kind of got off that track, but we're a little bit of a victim of our own marketing. Whenever something new or innovative comes out, you want to label it with something. And the green sector right now, I think, is suffering a bit from that, because we've labeled ourselves with this green tag. In reality, it's efficiency. Businesses always look for efficiency. They always have. And in this case, we're talking about energy, which is now a core component of our economy. And we do suffer from that educational piece where people simply don't know where to turn. They don't know what the best option is. That's always going to be the case whenever you get a new product or something, again, that we label as innovative. They say, well, should I be the first one to do this? Or maybe it's been around for a little while, but they've heard different things. There's opportunities if you look at the way that we label it. And when you go to a homeowner or a business or a municipality or the state or whoever, and you say, look, I'm going to help you save money or save energy or make your system more efficient, they begin to get that. And so I think there's a communication effort here that really needs to begin to shift so that it's no longer confusing. Or I've always advocated the fact that I don't want to be innovative. I don't want people to look at what we do as something different. I want it to become the norm. And if we continue to perpetuate that notion that what we're doing is somehow special and that we need special treatment, I know that there's a bit of a subsection of this country that will look at that negatively, and we won't get the maturity of that market that we're striving for. Now, I think there's still a lot that can be done, and I don't want to say that it's not innovative, because I think it is in a lot of ways. But I think that is a communication effort. And to go back to real briefly a point that somebody had mentioned before around the community colleges, the community colleges have the ability to bring ideas that are outside or larger in nature to the community level. If you incubate at a community college, most likely those ideas, that business, whatever it may be, will be brought back to the same community, or that student that has the business and has been incubated will bring it to their community. And if we're talking specifically about some urban areas, then they're going to go right to the networks that they know, that they have connections with, and they have a network in, and begin to try and communicate with their community. That's one of the beauties of the community college in this effort, and where great strides could actually be made, because those are the communities that need it the most. And if we can begin to incubate that at the community college level and create that legitimization, create the structure that allows them to go forward and go back to their community to begin to bring these new ideas, these new businesses, I think there's going to be a lot of success from that. And so I think, you know, that's has a lot of potential moving forward.
Thanks a lot, Mike. And some claps. Did you hear that, Mike? You got applause? Okay, so thank you very much, panelists, for answering those questions. And now we're going to open it up to the audience and see if you all have questions that you would like to pose to the panelists, including Mike, who's going to stick with us via technology. Yes? Yeah.
Yep.
I'd like to thank everyone for stimulating some thoughts. I wanted to just understand the small business, new business development landscape here in the Bay Area. So I'm looking at TV and I see something about green and sustainability, and I think I've got a product or a service I think I might be able to apply into this market. Where do people actually go? Is there like a one-stop shop where folks can go to get information about, well, sustainability, they can get information about jobs, they can get information about business opportunities and financing? Well, if we're trying to grow this sector, and this is my thought behind it, we've got to make it easy for people to know how to innovate and engage and grow the sector. And how easy is it to do that here in the Bay, particularly in the Bay Area?
That's a great question. Do any of you want to answer that?
I can try to answer it, and I can tell you that it is very difficult to find it all in one place. I think personally, on my personal education, time, research, it has to have been like 5 or 6 years now. Getting certifications as a home energy rater, a green point rater, sustainable building advisor, and attending several workshops and conferences and so on and so forth. So we're still on an we are still emerging in the technology. And the people who actually, you say no more construction, but the people who actually know the building codes and just know all the different codes to actually do the construction, they're still learning how to apply these technologies as well. And the businesses, so that's what's preventing, to me, part of the hindrance, because we're all on this burst, like everyone is trying to catch up and get this knowledge and this information as well as pass it on and move forward. We need a one-stop shop, but you just go around in circles kind of trying to pull it all together.
You know, I agree. I can say from the programs that we support, we have great programs that provide technical assistance if you have a green business. We have programs that provide financing. And I think in the affordable housing space, they've done a really good job of kind of creating the standards and having that discussion among them. But I think as a small business person, that path is not clear at all. And there's a lot of opportunity for collaboration in that space. So I think that's a great idea.
Is that a role that community colleges can play, or is it a hindrance for people to engage in the community college space?
I think of the community colleges put the information out there in a way that it's accessible, and make it attractive for folks in the community to come, they will learn. It is really how you do it. You know, if you do it during the day when people are working, as you know, is very difficult to get there. What I have seen is there are a couple of places, I wouldn't call them one-stops, but the Green Chamber of Commerce, for instance, or there are some entities where folks who are interested in green business come together. What I've seen in those spaces, there really aren't very many people of color there. In all the chamber events around green business, it still seems that there's a divide there. But I would, Mona, yes, Mona, go ahead.
I have one more point. I think from an infrastructure perspective, an organization that might be ideally suited for this, just because they have a national umbrella, is the small business development centers, which are in California embedded in community colleges, you know, already. But they're really, you know, each small business development center is different. You know, that I wouldn't say there's a standard for them, but you know, it's a national infrastructure, and they do attract a lot of minorities and women to come to those services as well. Again, just from an infrastructure perspective, they may be, you know, yeah.
I know there's a new clinic at East Bay Community Law Center that's a green business development project. And so if there isn't a one-stop green business center available, there are lots of folks in the community who could help build one. I think it's a great idea. Go ahead, Nina. I'm sorry. Nina had one response, and then we'll get.
I think the other thing that's critical is really capital. I mean, a lot of the entrepreneurs that start businesses, I mean, if they have friends and family money that are able to, or have a full-time job that they're able to bootstrap, you know, their way into launching that business. That's why I think, you know, programs like this, where you have, you know, a business plan competition, and maybe you get some startup capital and then access to resources. You know, on the ICA side, you know, we've really, you know, we launched our entrepreneurship education in response to smaller companies, because on the portfolio, we typically work with companies that have been that are established and are really looking to scale. But how are we building that pipeline of you know, from the business plan to actually being able to scale and create lots of jobs? And so I think, you know, funding is absolutely critical in that conversation as well.
Okay, and we've got a couple of questions in the audience. I see the gentleman in the yellow, who's probably has the mic, so he's probably had his hand up the longest. And then I see the young lady here, and then the gentleman back there.
I have a question about how community workforce agreements or project labor agreements and such can support small women, minority-owned businesses, and what we need to build into those agreements to both provide the opportunity and connect back to the resources so that they're successful.
Tell me your name so I can know who asked that provocative question.
Steve Gelb from Emerald City, Seattle.
Oh, okay. So did you want to answer that, since you've worked with, I have my own ideas, but I know Utuma's closer to the ground on this. So. Do you want me to start, or you just?
I think that being at the table is key, because traditionally, smaller businesses, community, and things like that, we're not at the table. Our voice was not even being heard. So with the community workforce agreement, at least everyone is at the table having this discussion. Watch the language that's being put in. That's my, you know, watch the language that's being put in, and community stay at the table, business stay at the table. Make our elected representatives represent our interests. And that's
no, that's helpful. And a community workforce agreement, do most people in the audience know what a community workforce agreement is? Does anyone not know what it is? Okay, you're a very educated audience. You might give a little tip. So generally it's well, there are different kinds. There are project labor agreements, which primarily deal with construction, that are a pre-hire agreement, which determines issues like jurisdiction and how disputes are going to be dealt with and what work is going to be covered and who has to sign what agreements to be able to work on a project. Community workforce agreements have been interpreted, I think, more broadly to include, in some instances, both the construction on a project, so the building trades that are involved in the negotiation, as well as the work that goes after the project is built. So, you know, operations and those kinds of after construction work on the project. Is there going to be a requirement that 50% of the labor on the project has to come from the local jurisdiction? Those project labor agreements usually were to both address issues of continuity of work. So there's labor peace on the project, which the owners of the project are very interested in terms of, especially with large projects. And then there's also, from labor side, the concern about all of our members who are on the bench or who haven't been able to get work, to ensure that the work is covered by a project labor agreement. Some folks would say, meaning that it's union labor. There are some things that have been done on some project. I can speak more about project labor agreements. I haven't been involved in that many community workforce agreements, although I think PLAs in many cases are considered to be a kind of community workforce agreement. But things like the threshold of projects covered. So let's say it's a $50 million project covered by a PLA. Is every piece of dirt that gets turned over going to be covered, or is the threshold going to be at $250,000 or $500,000, or the PLA has to be signed out over $1 million. So the threshold is important. And many small businesses will say they'd like to see higher thresholds because then the smaller projects are not necessarily covered by the PLA or the CWA. This folks should know this is very controversial issues in the small and minority business world, and small minority businesses wanting to work or needing to work closely with labor. So that just little bit of information. Okay, so CWAs, as Denise has said, generally will include local hire provisions, meaning local folks have to be, for any contractor who's doing work, they have to utilize X percentage of local hires on the project. In many cases, and I think San Francisco is a really great example, Alameda County is now developing a PLA that includes that. In addition to it being local, there are other criteria that go along with who needs to be hired. Disadvantaged workers, workers coming out of the incarceration system, people who are on welfare. So the folks who must be hired in certain percentages on the project need to meet certain criteria. And it started as local hire for those who, you know, are not from California. In California, as you know, we have Proposition 209, which prevents agencies, educational institutions, from targeting work based on race or ethnicity. So Prop 209 kind of outlined in many cases affirmative action. And so in that case, folks started looking at other things they could do to ensure that disadvantaged folks would be included, and that meant looking at things like local as opposed to women and minority. Some entities have local, minority, women, et cetera. So a lot of it is based on policy, litigation, legislation, and how you design programs that get you to be able to utilize or focus on those communities that really you're wanting to include in the equity agenda that Angela Blackwell talked about earlier. Some other things in terms of community workforce that can help small and emerging businesses are things like barrier removal funds. At the Port of Oakland, our project labor agreement had a social justice trust fund, and so dollars could go into this fund that could help remove barriers, like for local workers might have been boots, equipment, initiation fees, things that could be waived by monies that went into this trust fund. There it was 10 cents on each hour worked went into a trust fund, and it was for workers. There's no reason you couldn't also develop a barrier removal fund that focused on small and minority businesses, and you all are probably aware of some of those that do that. So I hope that answered some of your questions. And then the young lady here with the black sweater, you had a question.
My name is Birch Early. I'm here along with Patty Castro, the Assistant Director of the Alameda County Workforce Investment Board. I just wondered what you feel is the proper role of government, city and county government, in growing and sustaining green businesses.
Someone want to answer that?
Well, certainly in our case, Laney College, we work with the City of Oakland a great deal, for example. And someone was mentioning the buyback of homes that have been foreclosed. The City of Oakland has an inventory of homes. Laney partners with the City of Oakland, and to do home rehabilitation and new construction in some cases. I think city and local governments and county governments are crucial in this whole picture. They're really an important partner. And a lot of the action in the green economy is occurring not because of anything the feds are doing or even the state, but because of what's happening at the local level. And they're key partners. And if I had some funding to do a business incubator at Laney, I know I would want the City of Oakland to be involved as well as a key partner. And it's really more a matter of funding because we have the resources in the various areas.
Yes, sir.
My name is Chuck Carpenter. Tutu and I have worked together for years. That's her real name, by the way. And to piggyback on what Peter just said, if it were not for Santa Clara County, Alameda County, Marin County, Sonoma County, you wouldn't see very many green retrofit businesses. Counties that have regulations that you have to have your building retrofitted if you remodel, if you remodel to a certain size, or like Santa Clara, all new construction has to be green point rated, it has to follow the green codes, has opened up a whole bunch of businesses in those counties. Again, without a collaboration between government and constructive social change through climate, we wouldn't have any of these jobs.
Thank you. And Tutu, as you pointed out, Chuck, I was trying not to call her out, but Tutu wanted to add something to the discussion.
Please use my government name. Well, what I wanted to add to that is I think I just saw on the debates with Obama and Romney recently that who else, like we're in an era where we're just coming out of a recession. A lot of businesses have closed. People are looking for new industries to get into to revive their business, renew their business, and create work for people. The only organizations that will take those kind of risk and investing in people is the government. Businesses will follow, but I mean, you know, other investors will follow, but government kind of leads the way in that, in reinvesting. So it's like, that's why they call it the new Green Deal, because government has to invest at the local levels so that the federal government and the other governmental agencies can say, well, this is good because this small government, this small city, they're getting this kind of return. They need some kind of feedback. And if we're going to regrow our economy nationally, we have to start looking at things locally and reinvesting in our people. We have to regrow our own. We have to regrow our own businesses. We have to regrow, you know, we have to educate our people. We have to do these things at the local level first because no one else is going to do it for us.
And I think you made a good point too about when these policies are being developed, that the people who are impacted are at the table. And Mike, yes? Did you want to add to the conversation?
Yeah, I wanted to add to that because I completely agree that the government, either local or state level, even out here, plays a critical role in the way that the markets are developed. Where we're located in the Northeast, where some of the state level policies are critical to what we do, a lot of local action is taking place and is not publicized as much as it should be. At the same time, the one thing I would caution is that the policies are potentially susceptible to changing. So for us, while we've grown over the past 4 years, we've had to be very flexible with the type of policies at the local and state level, and I know it's very different here than California, but to have that flexibility in a small business can be very challenging sometimes when you put a lot of your weight, investment in people or infrastructure behind a particular policy that would come forward. It's something to be very mindful of. Again, that said, government plays a critical role in my view, on continuing to help develop this market and stabilize the market. So that's something that should be focused on and try and help continue while the market begins to mature.
Thank you, Mike. Are there other questions? Yes.
Hi, my name's Kimberly King, and I'm a renewable energy engineer. And just to kind of follow up with what I feel, community and government needs to be more committed toward this nascent and burgeoning industry. I won't go into what I tried to do 7 years ago, which was pre-Solar Richmond, but I will say this, and I'm only just going to make a sobering comment on my own personal experience in this realm. I don't know if y'all have heard of Solarize Portland, but I like the intent here that there are these provisions that are going to be put into place to hire disadvantaged and marginalized and a demographic of people that wouldn't normally be in this sector. What happened with Solarize Portland in my case was I was supposed to be the director of engineering for this one small hybrid renewable energy company there, and Solar City came in and underbid us, even though it was probably our contract. And since then, I have to sadly report my colleague had to shut his business down about a month ago because the stimulus package funds never made it to him. So I guess what I would like to see is that when people talk the talk, that they actually walk the walk, and when they say they're committed to supporting a locality that, and fomenting that and growing that, that they do make that happen. Because I think, you know, in my particular case, it's been really challenging trying to get work when I'm not a business development person, even though I know how to do solar installations and I have a specialty of small wind in the built environment. Because I'm too much of a generalist, I see people being focused on their own respective technologies and not coming together and collaborating, creating this nice, stable platform where diversity can proliferate. So I would like everyone to sort of take that into consideration, you know.
Denise, did you need him?
That's actually a very, oh, I'm sorry, Joe.
Yeah, but you go first.
Well, yeah, I have the two-hand.
Yeah, sure, okay.
An interesting proposition, I think, that you just provided us, which is Emerald Cities here in the Bay Area is two cities and regional. Our job is to green every building in this region. So that means people should be working for the next 50 years if we were able to do that. But then the question is that how do you create a stable of partners, you know, to do all elements of this work that represent the demographics that need to be represented within your region. And so you don't go at it alone. It's how do you build, you know, with an existing coalition, saying, you've got a list of 5 companies we've pre-qualified and have identified as being able to deliver and deliver on time, and guess what? They need to be a part of your deal because we've got some political heft that can say that you can't undercut them or you can't push them aside. So maybe that's the role of, and also, as you were saying, the notion of an incubator is that you've got the plumber and the engineer and you've got the major contractor and some of the subs all working together to go after bigger projects. And so there is an important role for collaboration on the politics of this, on the technology of this, and the overall business development. So perhaps we could continue this conversation about how to grow this capacity within this region.
Hi, I'm Joel Rogers with Emerald Cities. I wanted to ask about capital. and source of capital. ARA, of course, is over, and before it fails to get to the right places, it has to start, but it's not going to start again anytime soon. And I was struck by the fact that we haven't talked a lot here about, although I guess it was, who was it? It was Nina, I think, who said, well, you got to worry about capital as well as other things. So if you could just comment on two potential sources of capital that you haven't commented on yet. One is credit unions and how and to what degree you're working with them. I'm always struck by the fact that, and no offense meant to Citi, but you've got $3 trillion of individual deposits in the four too big to fail banks that now result out of the crash. And there was a lot of popular support at one point for moving your money to, you know, CDFIs or credit unions or whatever. I'm just curious about how in this area the credit unions are functioning and how much they're players. And the other is, of course, the utilities who are spending billions and billions of dollars. Sometimes they're sort of their own money, sometimes segregated ratepayer funds that are supposed to be dedicated to this. This is very developed in California, but I'm wondering how much are you actually using the utilities in financing this stuff?
So I actually don't have a lot of experience with the credit unions. You're saying in terms of funding small businesses?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, they're restricted in terms of their quantity of capital that can go to small business under federal restriction pushed by the banks years ago. And I'm very interested in overturning that. But that, you know, that personal ambition aside, they can make some loans, and most of them are not actually loaning up to even the levels that they're permitted to. But in Wisconsin, where I'm from, we use them to, you know, in the post-ARA phase to finance most of our retrofit projects, actually. Sure. And we were very successful with that. I'm just wondering how you guys are using them locally.
I'd say that the experience that we've had has been with a lot of community banks and probably CDFIs that you're referring to, and a lot of these unique funds that are looking at you know, capital differently for companies. And so, you know, the way that we do it at ICA is really looking at how can we bridge the gap. You know, when someone goes to get a loan, you know, not having collateral or, you know, not being able to get the amount that they need, you know, how can we be creative about using capital to sort of bridge that gap and get them to where they need to be. And so I think, you know, again, not to knock on the bigger banks, but we've found that working with the CDFIs and the community banks have been a little bit more flexible in being able to work with those businesses.
And it looks like Mike has a comment. Go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, I feel like that's the easiest way for me to try and communicate. So I would.
And I'm trying to watch.
With the community banks and the regional banks. When we first went for our first project, we were working with a local school district, and we went to every bank within the area, and it was extremely difficult for them to provide a loan to us because they said we don't fund startups. What we had to do was, again, change that conversation to say you're not funding a startup business. What you're doing is funding a project with a municipal high credit worthy entity that we are doing a project with. So we actually had to try and push that creditworthiness onto the municipality, and that created, again, that partnership with a business, but the municipality didn't even really realize it, but it worked out for us. Now, the bigger banks that we talked to didn't have any interest whatsoever in being able to fund this type of project. Either it wasn't big enough or they didn't know us. It was very difficult. So that connection between the local banks and those developing businesses, and if there is a community college piece wrapped into this, you're dealing again with the community. The best thing we can do, in my opinion, right now is get back to the community in every sense of that word to support one another. And where that line draws and how you define community, I'm not really sure. But that's been our experience, and I would put a lot of weight into continuing that dialogue and bringing community banks and regional banks into the conversation because they want to lend to something that will benefit their community because they can directly see that.
Peter.
Let me just comment briefly on the utilities. Obviously, they do have a crucial role to play. And we at the community college, they're a strategic partner of ours, and we've been partnering with them for many years. We mostly see that part of, but also utilities are very large corporations with multiple agendas. And they have the ability, if they chose to, for example, to be much friendlier to the solar industry. Someone described our local utility as electrical storage system, and indeed, one could look at them that way. They have tremendous potential if they can adjust some of their business models. And of course, that in terms of energy efficiency, they're very much a partner in that.
And I believe Denise had a comment.
There's only 4 minutes left in this session, and I'd like to take an executive privilege and really ask Dana Cunningham, put her on the spot, to talk about an alternative business model that she's working on in the Bronx community, which relates to, it will be an interesting notion, the worker-owned cooperatives and the business model that others have been looking at, in particular foundation communities.
Okay. So where to start? So in the Bronx, we are working with anchor institutions, which I guess a lot of people are familiar with, and of course the Peralta Community College System is one. But trying to create a network of, I don't know which way to turn, a network of, sorry panelists, yeah, I'll just stand here, a network of worker-owned businesses that are looking at the procurement streams of the anchor institutions. So that part is not particularly new. The new part is thinking about the worker-owned co-ops as a network of mutually reinforcing businesses that can support each other and create kind of a self-sufficiency ecosystem in the Bronx. And in that, we are drawing on the model of Mondragon, Spain, where in the Basque region, I see a lot of heads shaking, people know about this. In the Basque region, you know, there's a worker co-op network that employs 100,000 people. And they do everything from education co-ops to high-tech home production, home products, you know, washing machines, to engineering products. And so we're in the very, very early stages. So when anybody asks me to talk about it, I feel like, oh, you know, this is very, very new. We are working with 1199. And so that's another piece of it. How does labor think about using its dollars and its workforce training capacity and connect kind of another piece of this self-sufficiency system? So I don't know if there's anything else. I guess there's just one more thing I would say, which is, and we haven't figured this part out yet, but in Spain, you know, there's the first thing that the Basque, the Mondragon company did when it started was it built a school, and for 10 years it did nothing but educate people, educate workers to be high-skilled, high-tech workers, to be citizens of the corporation because it is a self-owned, self-run company. And then the second thing they did was to build a bank so that they had their own source of capital. And to this day, every worker that joins the co-op buys in at the level of 1 year's salary, payable over 10 years. So it is to say that we have a huge, and it took them 10 years to do that piece. And, you know, we're in year 0. So what it makes me think about is how do you accelerate that process a little bit? And one is through partnerships like community colleges. And in the Bronx, we're working with the Bronx and Hostos community colleges. And we haven't cracked the capital nut yet. I mean, we're not in a position where people can invest a year of their salaries. But, you know, we'll figure that one out too, I guess. With the MIT Community Innovators Lab, and so we are a planning organization, and our part of it is because this is the worker co-op piece is part of a comprehensive development plan that goes beyond the anchor institutions and is looking at the social needs of the community as well. Our job is, I guess, on the one hand to look at the comprehensive needs of the community, and we are focusing a little bit on concentrations of 1199 members, but also to kind of hold the table. So at the table we have the anchors, the community organizations, workforce development. We have a green business entrepreneur who was one of the founders of Seventh Generation, and he's playing a really important role in building the entrepreneurship capacity of the initiative.
Oh, well, I wanted to put out a plug for a similar effort that's happening in Oakland, the Community Economies Roundtable, and I believe the next convening will be on November 27th, but if anyone's interested in information, just...
Can you repeat that, community?
The Community Economies Roundtable, it's a joint collaboration between a lot of groups, but is being organized this next meeting by the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights and the Green Collar Communities Clinic, which is part of the East Bay Community Law Center.
And this, one last example, I just want to bring out alternative models of business development, work with cooperatives being one, but would you also just tell us a little bit of community power? Yeah. You talk to me, so I'm talking back at you now.
Al Weinrod with the Local Clean Energy Alliance, and what we do in the Bay Area is we advocate for the development of local energy resources, and this means basically democratizing energy and using the power of the sun and other places to bring wealth into the communities. And there is a program in California called Community Choice Energy, and what this does is it allows a city or a county or a governmental entity to take over the procurement of energy. PG&E and the utilities still have to, bring it to the homes. But that means that then that's an economic development platform that could provide the ability to organize the development of cooperatives or collectives or all kinds of different forms of economic development. Is that what you were looking for, Denise?
I think that's what she wanted. One last question? No more questions. Okay.
But we do have a break, and we have more sugar, coffee, and some tea outside. But I think please come back because we have a really great conversation. Let's have a 10-minute break and come back, and we'll be here for the last panel, which will be very interesting.
Thank you. And if anyone wants information on our bonding program, I have flyers up here. Thank you. Can we give our panel a hand? They really worked hard. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. Bye. Nice meeting you.